Have you ever been to the movies? Let's keep it real. Don't try to play me. You're not so religious that I don't see past it. I know you went to see Star Wars. I know you went because the original cast was there. I know you went to see Harrison Ford. I know because I went to see Harrison Ford. He's an amazing actor, and not only that, but he is Han Solo, the man, the myth, the legend, the pilot of the Millennium Falcon, the owner, if you want to call it owner, of the giant dog Chewbacca. How awesome is Han Solo? The thing about Han Solo, though, is he's actually Harrison Ford, and he's actually an actor. I want to ask you a question. If you take Harrison Ford out of the movie Star Wars and you were to put him into a real-life science fiction situation, how well would Harrison Ford fare? Now, I'm not taking anything away from Harrison Ford at all. I feel that Harrison Ford's probably a pretty tough dude. But in reality, he's not a space cadet. He's not an astronaut. He's not built for outer space. He probably couldn't build the Millennium Falcon. He probably couldn't fly the Millennium Falcon if it was built for him. As a matter of fact, Harrison Ford is very limited as to what he could do as it comes to anything outside of our atmosphere. He's an actor. He is paid to portray a role. That's what I want to talk about today, just really quickly. The difference between actors and people of action. Neil Armstrong was a person of action. He actually went into outer space. He actually got past the Earth's atmosphere. He was trained to do so. He took the time to learn how to get there. He went through all of the proper channels. Harrison Ford, on the other hand, he's an actor. He never reached outer space. Maybe one day he'll reach it with the SpaceX program. I don't know. I don't care. I just know that he's never been there because he's an actor. I know Neil Armstrong has been there because he is a person of action. It's the real deal versus an actor. In the Bible, there is a clarification between actors and people of action, and in real life, we need to take that into account every single day. Before I get into this, I want to ask you, are you an actor or are you a person of action? Over in Acts chapter 4, we come across the difference. We find ourselves face to face with two very unique people types. Number one, we find a person of action. Number two, we find an actor. Let's look at the difference. Acts chapter 4 verse 32 says these words. Now the multitude of those who believed were of one heart and one soul. Neither did anyone say that any of the things he possessed was his own, but they had all things in common. And with great power the apostles gave witness of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ, and grace was upon them all. Nor was there anyone among them who lacked, for all who were possessors of lands or houses sold them and brought the proceeds of the things that were sold and laid them at the apostles' feet, and they distributed them to each one as they needed. And Joseph, also known as Barnabas by the apostles, which is translated the son of encouragement, a Levite in the country of Cyprus, having land, sold it and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. Now the trend in the day wasn't to fly into outer space. It wasn't to build these gigantic monolithic skyscrapers. The trend of the day for the early Christian was to sell things that you had, to get rid of your excess, to bring for the common good of the community of believers. This guy, Barnabas, clearly was on that train. So much so that he was called a son of encouragement. I want to just stop right here and make this known to you. People of action always come with titles. I'm not talking about directors or CEOs. I'm talking about a different type of action. I'm talking about people who really earnestly care for others. They come with titles. Look at Barnabas, son of encouragement. Now think about that. Why do you get called the son of encouragement? Because you are a branch of the very tree that offers encouragement. Barnabas was a person of action, and because of that, his title became a title of action. He was the son of encouragement. Why? Because his actions proved that he was an encouragement to others around him. He took the property, the excess that he had, and he sold it to produce for the common good of the church. That's a person of action. But not all people in the early church were people of action. As a matter of fact, if you look at the very next chapter in the very first few verses, you run into what I like to call a couple of actors. Let's see what happens. But a certain man named Ananias with his wife Sapphira sold a possession. He kept back part of the proceeds, with his wife also being aware of it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. Peter said to Ananias, "Why Satan filled your heart to lie to the Holy Spirit and keep back part of the price of the land for yourself? While it remained, was it not your own? And after it was sold, was it not in your own control? Why have you conceived this thing in your heart? You've not lied to men, but you've lied to God." Now, this isn't a person of action. Oh yeah, he brought some proceeds and he put it at Peter's feet. Sure, he gave some of the money, but he had made a promise. He had verbally said, "I'm going to be a person of action." He had went into an agreement with the rest of the church. He had made a pact that said, "You know what? You guys are taking your excess and you're putting it at the disciples' feet. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sell this land that I don't need because I've got so much land already, and I'm going to put it at the feet of the apostles, and then all of the poor in the church will be taken care of." What did Ananias with his wife do? Well, very clearly, according to our text, they took some of the money. It could have been 90%. It could have been 10%. Nobody knows, but it was a portion. And they laid it at the apostles' feet. It's not a person of action. That's a person who wants to be seen by others. It's an actor. It's a person who, when in time of action, decides to squander and pilfer and take a little bit off the top and make it a loud expression in order to be recognized. But the core issue, the heart of the person, has nothing to do with meeting the need. It has to do with meeting the criteria, or meeting the standard, or meeting the subsect, getting in where you fit in, keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. Very clearly, Ananias and Sapphira knew about Barnabas, knew his title, the Son of Encouragement, and maybe that made them just a little bit jealous. So what did they do? Instead of being people of action, they decided that they would act like people of action. They sold a little bit of their land, they brought a little bit of the money at the disciples, and put it at the disciples' feet, and then they went about their business. The question is, could they have kept all the money for the land and been okay? Of course they could. It was their money, as Peter very clearly said. It was at their disposal. They could have done anything they wanted to do. But instead, they had to act out a role that they really weren't interested in fulfilling. The question is, today in our society, are you acting out roles that you're really not interested in feeling? I want to tell you something. Jesus looked at the churches in Revelation, and he was very bold when he said, "I would rather you be cold than lukewarm." Yeah, hot's good, but I would rather you be turned off, be completely ice cold, than just hanging out on the fringes, just kind of hanging out halfway doing your halfway thing. Jesus was very clear in saying that if you're not reaching into the vine and taking from the supply of the vine, you're going to be cut off, thrown into the fire, and burned. Now hold on. That doesn't mean you're going to hell. It means that you're not going to reap the truest harvest of peace that you can have. Here's the scenario. Actors put on a big show. They grandstand. They throw out all of the faux pas and do all of the stuff. It's a ballyhoo. It's a gigantic announcement of, look what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, when we saw Star Wars coming out, we saw Harrison Ford right on the billboard, right on the placard. Han Solo was back. Harrison Ford is not really Han Solo. He is an actor that portrays a character that was developed by George Lucas named Han Solo. With that, I have to say, if you are all about being on a placard, being put out in the forefront, being the big name, the big wig in the crowd, then you're an actor. And if you do the things that you do in order to be seen by men, and you don't fulfill the promise that you've made with God and maybe others, but you just bring a little bit and say, look at what I've done, you are an actor. But for the rest of these, they were meeting the needs for the entire community of the church. They were touching every single individual. Not one of them went without. There was no lack. Why? Because there were people of action involved in the early church. Now, through all of my blunders and tongue ties, I simply have to bring this to a close by saying this. If you are a person of action, you will meet the situation head on. One, offer prayer, because let's face it, prayer without works is bottomless. It's pointless. It's without purpose. If you have the ability to meet a need and you can, and all you do is offer prayer, let me tell you what you are. Can I say it? Do you guys mind if I say it? Is it going to offend somebody? You're an actor. If you have the ability to meet a need, you have a seed in your hand, and it can be sown into whatever it is that needs to be sown into. Let me tell you something. You can sow that seed and be a person of action. You can give and be a giver. You can sow and be a man or woman who is out to do the best they can for others. The difference between people of action and actors is the inner peace that comes by Jesus Christ. It's the inner peace of knowing I've done all that I can. And my reward is the fact that I stand on my 2 feet with integrity, knowing that I've done what I have to do to further this kingdom. An actor, on the other hand, well, according to the Bible, Ananias and Sapphira both dropped dead. I don't think you're going to drop dead, but I think it's a metaphor or allegory for this simple fact. When you're an actor, you will be recognized as an actor. In other words, you'll be recognized as a poser, as a fake, or as a fraud. Keep your focus on Jesus Christ. Walk the path that He set out for you. Do the things that He has called you to do. He doesn't expect that you would be uncomfortable. He doesn't expect that you would lack. But He does call you to be generous beyond words. Be generous in your action. Be generous in your finances. Be generous in your prayers. And be generous in your works. This is Ron Kennedy, ATW World Church Short. I love you. We'll see you next time.